Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that you literally use every single day, probably without even giving it a second thought. But by the time we wrap up here, you're going to realize that the words coming out of your mouth are nothing short of a total biological miracle. They're a super powerful psychological tool and a really profound divine trust. We're going to break down the science, the psychology, and the incredible spiritual depth behind speech and language. Let's get right into it.
So think about this totally mind-blowing evolutionary fact right off the bat. The human voice box, the larynx, actually sits way lower in our throats compared to other primates. And because of this unique position, our airway and our food pathway literally cross over each other. Which means, yeah, we risk choking every single time we swallow. But biologically speaking, we trade that safer swallowing for the absolute superpower of complex speech. That lower larynx is the exact thing that lets you produce the massive variety of sounds you need to talk, to sing, and to just express yourself.
Okay, let's dive into this comparison. Animals definitely communicate. Bees do these crazy complex dances to point out nectar. Whales sing massive songs across entire oceans, and prairie dogs even have very specific alarm calls. But animal communication is fixed. It's totally limited to the here and now. Food, danger, mating. Human speech, on the other hand, absolutely no upper limit. You could invent a sentence right now that has literally never been spoken in the history of humanity, and I'd understand it perfectly. We use language to tell epic stories, to do complex math, to wonder about the future, and to just grasp these really abstract ideas.
Section 1. The superpower of speech.
So how exactly do we pull off this uniquely human superpower? Well, let's zoom in on the microscopic and biological foundations of how we actually generate words. To speak just one simple everyday sentence, your body has to perfectly coordinate over 100 different muscles. Your tongue, which is incredibly flexible by the way, your lips, your jaw, and your vocal cords all have to do this perfectly timed dance in just fractions of a second. And on top of all that, your breathing has to synchronize flawlessly so you don't just run out of air mid-sentence. It is a stunning feat of biomechanical engineering happening right inside your mouth.
And honestly, it gets even deeper when we look at our DNA. Speech is one of the most genetically complex abilities we have. Now, hundreds of genes contribute to language development, but the FOXP2 gene is definitely the most famous. Scientists often call it the language gene, because they found that mutations in this specific piece of our genetic code can actually severely impair a person's ability to speak and understand grammar. You are literally, at a cellular level, hardwired to communicate.
And it's really cool. This hardwiring starts incredibly early. Fetuses actually begin hearing at around 24 weeks. Way before you were even born, you were already listening to the rhythm of your mother's speech and the melody of your native language. And what's super fascinating for anyone studying the Quran is how often the text actually places the gift of hearing before the gift of sight. Modern embryology completely backs this up. Our auditory systems come online and start processing the outside world weeks before our eyes are even ready.
Which really brings us to this beautiful realization. Speech isn't just some random biological accident or an evolutionary byproduct. According to the Quran, the ability to take abstract thoughts, turn them into symbols, and then turn those into spoken meaning, that's a direct teaching from the Creator. Allah says He taught him speech, or al-bayan. Every civilization, every science, every law, and even every single text message you send completely relies on this fundamental divine gift.
Section 2. Inside the speaking brain.
Now, what's really interesting here is what happens when we shift from genetics to the incredibly fast-paced neuroscience happening inside our heads during a simple conversation. When you just say hello to a friend, so much of your brain lights up. You've got Broca's area, which handles actually producing the speech. You have Wernicke's area, actively processing and understanding the language. Then your motor cortex is firing off lightning-fast signals to those 100 muscles we just talked about. Plus, your auditory cortex is literally listening to your own voice in real time to make sure you didn't misspeak. Speaking a single sentence fires up dozens of brain regions simultaneously across both hemispheres. It's wild.
So when you actually understand the neuroscience and the anatomy required for language, verses like this one from Surah Balad take on a whole new depth. Have we not made for him 2 eyes and a tongue and 2 lips? The tongue and lips aren't just there for eating. They are the absolute anatomical requirements for making phonetic sounds and forming human connection. They are literally monumental gifts that allow us to build entire civilizations.
Section 3. Healing words and mental health. All right, let's zoom out from the biology and the brain for a second and look at the psychological side of things. How do the words we use, and even the words we listen to, impact our mental health and spiritual well-being?
If you're a young adult dealing with the pressures of school, social media, and just life in general, you're going to want to hear this. A recent psychological study on university students aged 18 to 25 tested the impact of spiritually grounded religious affirmations. Students who went through an 8-session booklet of these affirmations saw a significant drop in their depression, anxiety, and stress scores. And not only that, their problem-solving skills and overall psychological well-being actively improved. The words we feed our minds literally have a tangible, measurable healing effect.
And this brilliantly illustrates how deeply words can heal. Researchers have actually looked at how reciting the Quran using traditional rules, which is called tajweed, serves as an amazing model for treating psycholinguistic disorders like stuttering. You see, stuttering often involves a lack of coordination between your breathing and your speaking, but tajweed enforces these really strict rules for exactly where to pause, which perfectly regulates the breath. It uses knob to manage the pitch and stress of syllables, and utilizing hadr, which is a rapid, rhythmic style of recitation, helps bypass the stuttering mechanism entirely, giving the person a massive boost in self-confidence. It's essentially physical speech therapy, perfectly encoded right into spiritual recitation. How amazing is that?
Section 4. The Prophet's Linguistic Genius.
We've seen how speech shapes the brain and heals the mind. Now let's transition into exploring the historical and societal impact of speech, specifically by looking at the totally unmatched eloquence of Prophet Muhammad. Historically, he is recognized as the most eloquent speaker of the Arabic language. But his eloquence wasn't just about how he delivered a speech, it was in his literal creation of entirely original vocabulary. Scholars call this al-kalimat al-mubtaqara. He introduced newly coined, beautifully structured words and phrases that had never even been used by the Arabs before. He elevated the entire standard of Arabic literature just through his daily conversations and teachings.
He also possessed this incredible divine linguistic gift known as Jawami al-Kalim. Basically, this was the ability to take unbelievably vast, profound, and complex philosophical meanings and pack them into super concise, really simple sentences. On top of that, he used this mastery to perfectly adapt his speech to the different dialects of various Arab tribes. Think of it like the ultimate, most eloquent form of code switching. He made absolutely sure his profound message was perfectly understood by whoever was standing right in front of him, no matter what their background was.
Section 5. Qur'anic Rules of Communication.
So the Prophet gave us this perfect personal model of eloquence. But the Quran also provides these universal ethical frameworks for how we should actually talk to others in our daily lives. The Quran outlines very specific types of speech for different situations. You have qaulun baligha, which is effective, deep speech. These are words meant to actually reach someone's soul when you're giving impactful advice. Then there's qaulun layyina, which is gentle speech. And the Quran specifically advises using this even when speaking to a hostile or tyrannical authority, like Pharaoh. And finally, qaulun karima is noble, deeply respectful speech specifically designated for how you talk to your elderly parents. What's crazy is that modern researchers are actively studying these exact same principles today to improve ethics in modern business, marketing, and personal selling.
Let's zoom out again and see how all this builds such a beautiful worldview. We have thousands of different languages on Earth today. And sometimes, that can feel like a barrier. But the Quran flips that perspective entirely. In Surah Ar-Rum, it states that the variations in our languages and our colors are deliberate, miraculous signs of divine wisdom. Without this diversity, human society just wouldn't function. Our linguistic differences are definitely not meant to divide us. They're meant to be a vibrant, beautiful sign of creation that we should absolutely celebrate.
Section 6. The Trust of Language.
We've covered the biology, the brain, the psychology, and the ethics, which brings us to our final and honestly, perhaps most important section. Because with great power comes great responsibility, right? So the crucial point is this. Speech is what built human civilizations. Speech is the exact vessel that carried divine revelation. Because of that, your speech is not cheap. According to Surah Kaf, not a single word does a person utter except that there is with him an observer ready to record it. Language is a heavy, heavy responsibility. The words you text, the comments you leave online, the way you speak to your friends, every single syllable you put out there is an accountable action. Which brings us to what might be the ultimate life hack for communication, summarized perfectly in this famous hadith. Whoever believes in Allah and the last day should speak good or remain silent. If you want to protect your mental health, if you want to honor the biological miracle sitting right there in your throat and fulfill your spiritual duty, this is the golden rule. If it's not good, if it's not true, or if it's not useful, just enjoy the silence.
We've seen how 100 muscles fire in fractions of a second. We've seen how gentle words can literally rewire a stutter and heal anxiety.
and we've seen the serious ethical weight carried by every single syllable. You possessed a biological miracle, a powerful psychological tool, and a divine trust right inside your mouth. So I'll leave you with this to think about as you go about the rest of your day. How will you use your voice today? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.